How about another hand for Mike and his music?
Thank you.
EIP has an organization with which we are associated, and some of you may not even know this, but there's a wonderful organization out there called iCaucas. And what we have today is the pleasure of hearing from the National Director of iCaucus, Dara Bailey, who's going to talk to us about iCaucus and how EIP and iCaucus can work together to the enhancement of both our missions.
So as she said, iCaucus is a national organization. We are nonpartisan. We vet and endorse candidates for office at all levels of government. That would include judicial, attorney general, governor, state house. Shannon Grove is actually one of our endorsed. What I was asked to talk a little bit about is how our voice is not being heard, why our voice is not being heard. So I'm going to give you just a couple of examples at our state level. One is when they are putting through a piece of legislation and that legislation comes up for a vote, our representatives can be on the House floor, cast one ballot or one vote, A or nay, and then the official record they can actually change so that when you go to look it up to hold them accountable, you're seeing what they want you to see, not necessarily what they did. The second thing is the balanced budget. That's in the news, right? How it's balanced. There is something in this piece of legislation called a spot bill. There are 16 of them. I pulled the official definition of a spot bill, and I want you to see if it makes sense to you. A spot bill amends a code section in a non-substantive way. A spot bill may be introduced to ensure that a germane vehicle will be available at a later date. Assembly rules provide that a spot bill cannot be referred to a committee by the Rules Committee without substantive amendments. Now let me explain a little bit about a spot bill. A spot bill may have a title, no bill number, and nothing in it. It literally marks a spot. That's all it does. So if there's 16 of those in a budget, how well do you think that's going to be? How balanced do you think it is going to be? How did they score that budget? This is a case of where your voice is not being heard. So what iCaucus does is we get you involved in the vetting process. You are able to interview them. You know your representatives. You can call them, just as they were able to call Shannon Grove and get her to speak today. You can call them about bills. You know what's coming up, and you can hold them accountable because now you know what they are actually voting for, whereas you didn't before. There is information, the young man, Christian, can you raise your hand, please? Where he is, there is information and sign-up sheets if you'd like to become involved. But we do need you. It is citizen-led. You guys need to start making the decision. You need to be able to hold them accountable. You need to be able to stand up to them and say, why are you passing this kind of legislation to begin with? We can blame it on Governor Brown for signing it, but the reality is, it was the legislature who passed it. How much are they listening to? They're not. So, Ruth, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Dara. I'm involved with iCaucus, and I want to let you know that in 2010, for the very first time ever, and I repeated it in 2012, every single vote, without exception, on my ballot, I cast for a person I had looked in the eye, had spoken to, had asked questions of, had shaken their hands, because iCaucus gets in with the candidates and we know who they are. We make them show who they are, and then as Dara said, we hold them accountable. So I was fortunate enough in both of those elections for the very first time to feel confident that the vote I was casting was something that I really thought was the right one, because I knew every single one of the candidates all the way up to the governorship. I knew for whom I was voting. That's one of the exciting things about being involved in iCaucus and about being involved in EIP. So I just wanted to put that little plug in.